This is episode 20 of the Music Therapy Chronicles podcast with Kate Shannon.
The way that they want to go about it isn't necessarily by them making music, and I think, I don't know if it's where it comes from, but sometimes it's like that. As a therapist, I'm like, but if we're not making music, or we're not, is this still therapeutic? Like, is this still, are we, if music, and I always go back to, if music has made the container for this safe play to occur, then, and we're kind of working on that stuff within that, and music has helped develop that relationship, then I feel like that's still music therapy. That is, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have made it to this place without that development and that acceptance of music therapy that made us move to this place.
You're listening to the Music Therapy Chronicles, a podcast about music therapy from a variety of perspectives. Our ambition is to inspire and connect listeners through meaningful conversations, just like a music therapy conference you can listen to anywhere. My name is Tricia and I am a board-certified music therapist from the New England region. If you like what you hear, join our group on Facebook and share your own insights and thoughts about the episodes. You can also connect with us on social media and online at Music Therapy Chronicles. Welcome back to the Music Therapy Chronicles podcast. I am super excited to share this conversation with you because Kate is so passionate about incorporating other modalities into her practice, and hearing her be excited about all the things makes me excited to learn more about how I can incorporate these modalities into my practice, learn from other individuals, things like that. So hopefully this conversation has you feeling inspired as well. So a little bit about Kate. She is the creator behind the Creative Therapy Umbrella, formerly the Music Therapy Umbrella, which is an online resource platform, blog, soon to be, or currently by the time this is out, podcast, where you can learn all about different creative and expressive arts, how you can use them in your practice, and resources for that kind of stuff, which is awesome because incorporating those other creative arts is a wonderful way to expand our practice. And I think that, like I said before, it just really gets me stoked about all the different things we can be doing in our music therapy practices. So definitely check out Kate's platform. And here's a little teaser for you. I am on one of her episodes. I think we'll be releasing these in conjunction. So if you've listened to hers and you've come here, welcome to the Music Therapy Chronicles. If you are listening to this and are excited to check hers out, you can go hear my voice some more. Maybe learn a little bit about me, some of the ideas I have for interventions and what have you. So definitely check her out, show her some love, tell her you were sent from the Music Therapy Chronicles podcast. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. Really quick, if you're liking what you hear, please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps this podcast be more visible. Check us out on social media at Music Therapy Chronicles. Join our group on Facebook. Start a conversation there about what you're learning from the episodes. Also, feel free to send me an email at feedback@musictherapychronicles.com if you want to be on an episode, or if there's someone you want to be on an episode. I've had a few emails lately of people reaching out, which is awesome, guest suggestions, and also topic ideas, things that you're feeling like you want to learn more about, you want to hear about, you want an expert's opinion on. So feel free to send us an email or a message on Facebook or whatever, and I'll see what I can do about finding someone with that expertise to share with all of us on the pod. All right, that's enough of me rambling. Please enjoy this conversation with Kate Shannon. Hello, Kate. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on today. And I know this is a little bit of a role change for you because you are also launching a podcast.
I am. It's so exciting, but it's really fun to be on this end. And I'm excited to have this experience as well because I think it'll make my podcast better, my interview skills better. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yes.
So, I guess I'll say this now. We are releasing these episodes in collaboration. So,
Yeah.
if you came here from Kate's podcast, welcome to the Music Therapy Chronicles. And if you're listening to this show and just learning about Kate's podcast, go ahead and fill in the blanks for us.
Sure. So my podcast is called Creative Therapy Umbrella, the podcast, and it'll be releasing by this time it'll be out. So hopefully you're listening. And if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's a ton of fun and I'm really excited for it. So
awesome. We'll dive more into that later. But so tell us a little bit about yourself.
sure. So where to begin? I grew up in upstate New York, which is it's a very large place when people refer to upstate New York. So I grew up in way upstate, which is outside of the Adirondack Park. And I grew up there and just absolutely love being in nature, being in woods, hiking, camping, all that stuff is a big part of who I am and actually goes a lot into my self-care. So I grew up there and ended up going to school. I ended up going to SUNY Oneonta for my bachelor's degrees, and I had a really hard time choosing what I wanted to get a degree in. And it ended up working out fantastic, but I bopped around and I think I was an education major, and then I was a music industry major, music business, and then I was just kind of all over the place and wasn't even really sure if I was going to do music. I was kind of, dabbling in other ideas too. But I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in music and a bachelor's degree in anthropology. And so, yeah, it's a weird combo, but the part that I really loved about it was my capstone projects for a lot of those classes that I took in my undergrad were about it was really the ethnography of music and of how people value music and creativity. So learning about other cultures and how they used music, and that's kind of what eventually led me to music therapy. But was music a form of entertainment in culture? How is it in our culture? How is it in subcultures of American culture? All these different roles of music and how it was used. I was really, really interested in learning about that. So that's what kind of led me on the anthropology side of things. And then I just can totally nerd out about archaeological nerdy stuff all day long too. So,
give us some fun facts about that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so one of my favorite so there's actually two, and they're both mummies. One of them is, I think I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but it's Otzi the Iceman. And he was found, gosh, I think it was over 5,000 years ago. His body was mummified, and he's mummified in, I think it was the Alps. He had all these markings over his body. They actually are like tattoos. They're kind of these small inked markings. And some of them are all these different lines. Some of them are circles. And they did a lot of research into his tattoos, and they found that they were in places that where acupuncture would have helped the ailments he had at that time. So they looked into his system and found that he had to eat a lot of grain and meat. So he might have had some of these gastrointestinal issues, and having those issues and knee issues too was another thing he had. And all of these places where these tattoos were the locations that acupuncture would have been done on him to support those things. So they were there's all this research and seeing if it's a connection between that, which is just so much fun. And then there's another one that's probably one of my favorites. It's the Siberian Ice Maiden. She is if you haven't looked her up, she has this amazing tattoos, but you can look them up online and see her mummified as well. And she was I actually took this in, like, it was a gender archaeology class that I took, and we did a lot of her case. I think she was found in 1991, and which was really cool because she was found by a woman archaeologist. So it was like, yes. But she, like, really broke open a lot of gender archaeology, kind of some of the ethnocentrism and kind of that gender inequality that happened within research when looking at archaeological digs, which was really cool because at first it was like, oh, I think they called her like the Siberian princess. She had this massive burial. There were like 6 horses that were buried with her. She had her coffin was like, I think it was like 10 feet long. Her headdress was 4 feet, just the headdress she was buried with. She had like all these amazing tattoos, and like her tattoos were really spiritual related. So they thought that maybe she had some sort of, if she might have been some sort of spiritual leader. But after they kind of looked into it more and then like looked into the gender biases, they were like, there's no way she could just be a princess in this culture. Like, why isn't she a queen? Why isn't she the leader? Maybe she is like a spiritual leader. So it's a really cool case in itself of just looking at it, but then looking at it too from gender biases that occur even in research. It's really amazing. So, yeah.
Those are cool. I appreciate those tidbits. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Take us back to not quite present day, but you got your 2 degrees, your 2 bachelor's degrees. Then what happened?
Yes. So I actually ended up working for a little while. I wasn't sure, didn't really, I knew about music therapy because my older brother had actually, his first semester of school, he did music therapy, and then he ended up switching. So I'd heard of it, but I didn't really have any idea of what it was, and it didn't really feel like it fit with me yet. So after I got my bachelor's degrees, I worked for a few years. I did an AmeriCorps program in Rochester, New York, which was amazing. And I ended up volunteering with this amazing music therapist, and it's so sad because she just passed a couple years ago, and she was really young. She had a couple kids, and she's just like, I give her like all of I wouldn't have gotten to music therapy if I hadn't volunteered with her. So she just like broke open this amazing world for me, and it was just so awesome. I volunteered with her for like 6 months, and once a week would go there, and she worked at an ARC with adults with developmental disabilities. And it was just, I remember like the moment it clicking, like I think she had like some lollipop drums. She had a song on that she was playing, and she was like running around the room and like moving the drums up and down, and the clients were having so much fun, and she was having so much fun. And I was just like I'm getting chills like thinking about it, because I was sitting there and I was like, this is amazing. How is this a job? It's so cool. So I think that was probably the moment where I was like, I need to go do some music therapy and go look more into it. So, yeah. So I then went to, I eventually ended up at Nazareth College, where I got my master's in creative arts therapy with a specialization in music therapy. And their program is really cool because it is it's like a combination. They have the core classes that you're taking with art therapists and music therapists. And the core classes are, mental health counseling related. So it's counseling skills, family therapy, group therapy. It's really mental health focused. And then you have like your other classes where you specialize in music. But we even took some classes with like social workers and other mental health counselors, which was a really cool, I think it really affected me as a therapist, and we'll probably get into more of like, that's why I want to start my podcast and want to continue on that route too. So it was just an amazing experience. And after I graduated, I did my internship at Mary Cariola Children's Center in Rochester, which was just the most amazing experience ever. It was so much fun. Such a I can't even put into words like the learning curve that happened in that short amount of time. But we did lots of Nordhoff Robbins style sessions, but then also a really great balance of group sessions as well that were much more like structured with activities. And it was just such a great balance. And I really love I still seek out that kind of a balance where you can have this space for improvising and moving on the moment musically and through play and whatever. But then have these other sessions that are kind of structured and you kind of follow through stuff. And I loved it there. And then I worked for about, oh gosh, I think almost 4 years, 3.5 years at a place in Rochester, Spectrum Creative Arts. I worked there for a while.
I interviewed Megan last week.
Yes. I had actually just talked with her and I was like, yes, Megan, Wade, Noah, they're all fantastic. Spectrum was such a cool place to be. They just value creativity so much in so many different approaches. It was just a fantastic place to be. It continued to shape me who I am today and what I value as a therapist. And I learned so much from them. And I know they have, I'm not sure if they have an intern now, but they have a great internship program there. You get to learn a little bit of everything. And I think actually we had talked about this, Tricia, when I interviewed you. It was that place where I was like just dipping my feet in all these different things. And it really helped me learn what I like. But then it also helped me learn things that I wasn't such a huge fan of, but then I felt comfortable doing them too, which I valued so much. It was hard to leave there, but my husband and I ended up uprooting out of Western New York and moving to Colorado. So we're in Denver now, and I've been working at my current job for almost 2 years. And so I currently work with kids. It's about like a half and half split. So kids who have special needs, and then kids who have life-limiting illnesses. Sometimes those cross over where there's special needs with life-limiting illness, and there's kind of some crossover there. But it's amazing, and it's really challenging, especially the life-limiting part for the kiddos for sure. But I was just talking with a parent, actually, or no, it was a nurse, I think, yesterday. And I was like, she's like, I just get so humbled so frequently. And I was like, yes, like there's so many times where I can just get in my own mind and start going. And then I come into a session and it's just like, oh my gosh, like just huge reality, humbling. And then I feel like that goes with me throughout the rest of the day. I feel like I get to learn so much too from those sessions. Yeah, so that's where I am now, working with just amazing kiddos with an amazing team. So it's awesome.
How do you handle those life-limiting situations, and what can you say to other people who might be experiencing that?
Yeah, I think it's a lifelong lesson. I feel like it's different for every kid. So I've had a couple of kids pass, and each kid, it's interesting because I feel like I end up finding a way there's the anticipatory grief that kind of happens where sometimes you're in a session and it's like, oh my gosh, this kid has, they gave them 2 months. Like that means I might only see them 4 more times. And it's hard for that stuff to not sneak into your sessions. But I think it's really great information too, because I think it's speaking on the interpersonal stuff that's happening within the session when stuff like that comes up. So like for me, when that comes up, it's like that moment where it's like, okay, be here now. Just be here. And just being here is the best thing that you can do for this kiddo in this moment. And then there's the afterwards part once you're out of the session that's, I think, the harder part that I still have trouble navigating. For me, the thing that has worked really, really well is I have a journal, and I think I read this somebody mentioned something similar to it on music therapy Hospice and Palliative Care, the Facebook group, which is awesome to be a part of if you're doing any type of palliative end of life work. And someone had said something about a journal and or writing letters or something like that. And I was like, that's a great idea. I love writing. So maybe I'll do something along those lines. And I've actually found it helpful for anticipatory grief and for grief in that it's this one journal. It's for nothing else but for my clients, for me to write to my clients. And I kind of just went at it and just jumped in of like, whenever I was having a feeling, especially if I was at home and had those feelings, because then it was like, oh, boundaries, like this is work stuff, but it's really important and it's coming up. So I want to find a way to get it out. And so in my journal, I usually write it. I'm ending up writing it to the client, and it really is just like my thoughts, my feelings towards them that I'm thinking about, anything that really comes up in that moment, and I'm writing it kind of to them in that journal. But then it just stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. It just stays right in that journal. It's more for me, but I think sometimes, especially when there's those moments where you don't get closure and, a kid passes, really unexpectedly, those are the times where I feel like I really lean on that to kind of have more of that closure for myself also. But then for the anticipatory grief, I feel like it's been really valuable because that I think sneaks in sometimes too when you're not at work. All of a sudden it's like something reminds you. I remember I was watching, this was like a terrible, terrible idea. I had a client that passed, and like a week later, we were like, oh, let's watch Coco. I hadn't seen Coco yet. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, it'll be great. I had to stop it. Like, there's one part, and I can't quite remember where it was, but there was so much with the death and the afterlife stuff. And I was like, whoa, like too much is coming up. I have to pause this. And I like went and took a while, wrote in my journal. We ended up watching it, a month or two later when it was just a better place to be. But I think you have to be really careful of those things that can jump into outside of work. And it's, I value those too. I wouldn't change it that happens, but I think it's finding an outlet to help support those too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of that. For me, journaling is really a self-care thing too. So to have a separate space where it's kind of professional self-care,
Yes.
it's important for your own preservation, but also if you're going back to review goals you've written in your journal, you're not gonna flip through some more maybe triggering things. That's in a different location. So that's a great technique to use, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same, that it's like I journal also for self-care. And I felt really conflicted in thinking about like, should I just put this in my regular journal? But it feels just so separate. And I think too, there's something so intimate about it. I like even thinking about where that journal is. It's like way down in the bottom of my desk, like where, it's like, this is my very intimate space, and I feel like it is just such an intimate space, similarly to the sessions at that time when you're in that type of work. It just feels so intimate that I just want it to have its own separate space for it to just kind of flourish in that space too. So, yeah.
Well said.
Thanks.
I wanna let that sink in, the heaviness of that conversation before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
So you have lots of experiences with, I'm going to say, different modalities of therapy. And one of your favorite is play therapy.
It is.
Dive
Yes.
into that. Tell us all about that. Go ahead.
Yes. So, okay. Well, I think what got me on this too, especially my master's degree, introduced play therapy, sand tray. We did, shared classes with art therapists. So we were doing, had that experience of creative therapy stuff right from the get-go for me, which was awesome. I loved it. And I am also, I feel like I'm not the most like super musical person. Like I almost didn't even get a music degree in college. I love music and it's one of my favorite things, favorite ways to create, but I also really like creating through art. Um, and I only realized this recently through play. I play D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and that mode of play, it's just play. It's adult, where you're role playing and you're using your imagination to solve these really fun problems. And I really love doing that. And it's really, now that I'm getting some experience doing play therapy and learning more about it and studying it, I'm like, this is just the adult version of some of this stuff. It's just playing. But so what really got me into learning more about play therapy, I had these great introductions and I feel like that seed had been planted. I had this phenomenal teacher in my master's, Dr. Domanchik, who was a play therapist and just fantastic teacher. And I think he planted that seed a long time ago too. But what I think really got me going on it more is that now doing this type of therapy that in some palliative care work, but I've also really dug into it too on working with kids who have autism or have different disabilities. And for me, something that I value so much working with clients is finding the client's genuine autonomy. I want to dig as far deep down as I can and find like what makes you tick. Like I'm not big on bringing in session plans. For groups, I do that, but for individuals, I really value trying to find like really matching where the client is at and like sitting with them and, having some options of stuff laid out of the shape drums over here and then maybe some bean bags over here and then really seeing where the client wants to go that day because it's always different. And what I've found happening, and I found this happening when I started at this job, and so many clients and I work with a lot of clients that are 12 and under, and a lot that are actually 5 and under too. So really in that play stage where pretend play is just starting to flourish and, they're engaging with other people, but wanting to do that pretend play stuff too. And so my nerdiness of what, playing Dungeons and Dragons totally comes out and like, yeah, I'm a dragon. Okay. I'm going to be a dragon. And being in those moments with kids, I found so many times that the music, and it's my thing too, where I'm like, okay, I'm trying to engage them with instruments or something, but they don't want to. They want to pretend play. And then I might add some music, of like, ooh, this is a scary thing that's happening, da, 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 make up something that's happening. And they love that and seek that out. And that continues the play. But it's not necessarily that they are playing music. They aren't making music, but we're being in music together. And that relationship has just, I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop seeing it in a lot of the sessions that I'm in. There's this really great article. It's called But I Want to Talk to You, and it's perspectives on music therapy practice with highly verbal children on the autism spectrum. Grace Thomas wrote it, and it was just, I think, published in this year in the Nordic Journal of Music Therapy. And I found that and I was like, yes, this is exactly what's happening. And it's kind of, it's all of this stuff has really fallen into place really well for me because coming out here to Colorado, they don't have an LCAT like they do in New York. So I'm in the process of getting my LPC out here. Because the master's degree that I got in New York set us up for licensure. And so out here, I just need to get my supervised hours and a class or two, and then I'll have a counseling license as well. So, and within doing that, I've also been doing a lot of the play therapy stuff under that learning piece, under the licensed counselor stuff. So it's kind of been this really beautiful chaos that has just all come together of I'm seeing this happen in my sessions, and then I'm doing more of this mental health work supervision to understand what's happening more, learning about that, especially with kids under 10, how development plays into that, how all these different theories of personality kind of play into all of that stuff. And just it's all kind of like smashing together right now, which is really exciting and a little bit overwhelming at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine. So
Yeah.
the mental image that I got from all that is a lot of what I've seen when I've attended, conference presentations or CMTEs or whatever about trauma informed music therapy and how that's very play therapy um, centered or can be. And so I've had sessions too where I have done more of a play therapy model and incorporated the music or kind of created a soundtrack per se to whatever we're doing. And in my brain, I'm always like, this is what our profession talks about for trauma centered therapy. And this client I'm working with is not identified as having a trauma diagnosis. So it's nice to be validated and hear that, it's just
Hmm.
how children process. It's just how they learn. It's just how they go through the motions to learn the skills that we're trying to get them to understand.
Yes. And I felt exactly the same way too. When I read this article, it was like, yes, especially that particular article was on, working with kids who felt that was happening with autism. So that trauma wasn't necessarily there, or it wasn't the main thing, or maybe it hadn't come out yet, but it really wasn't. It was, this client has autism and they're doing music therapy for developing, pragmatic skills, pragmatic language stuff, social language. But the way that they want to go about it isn't necessarily by them making music, And I think I don't know if it's a where it comes from, but sometimes it's like that as a therapist, I'm like, but if we're not making music, or we're not, is this still therapeutic? Like, is this still, are we, if music, and I always go back to, if music has made the container for this safe play to occur, then, and we're kind of working on that stuff within that, and music has helped develop that relationship, then I feel like that's still music therapy. That is, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have made it to this place without that development and that acceptance of music therapy that made us move to this place. The other day, I just had a kiddo come in, and I have a feeling this is related to school starting, lots of changes, lots of more sensory processing needing to happen throughout the day, comes right from school to my session. So when the client came in, the first thing they said was, I don't want to hear any music today. And they covered their ears. And I was like, okay, that's, no music today. Let's play. And I kind of had all these different things out. And so we played for a while, and eventually music came out of it. But I feel like even there might have been an older part of me that would have been trying to get the music a little bit, like really being like, okay, well, maybe we'll just start with this, or maybe we might do this. But I feel like the honoring what he was advocating for in the moment, that he didn't want music, but he wanted to play. He was still super excited to come into the session, and honoring that, we were able to move to that space, which was great. And even if we didn't, I feel like it still would have been therapeutic. So
It's kind of like what comes first, the music or the therapist? Which
yeah.
am I? In
Uh-huh.
another episode that should be out by the time this is released, I was talking with the person about how silence, allowing time and space for silence, can be music therapy. We're in charge of the soundscape, and if what the client needs for the soundscape is 10 minutes of quiet, then we're at liberty to give that to them.
Yes,
Yeah.
so much.
And we might
Yeah.
be the only person who can, and
Yep.
uh I think in some ways we're a little more flexible with that kind of stuff. I'm not a speech therapist, I'm not an OT, but I think it would be different for them to allow just time to sit in silence.
Yes. And I feel like where that would happen is I was just talking about this in supervision in my with a social worker for like mental health counseling, in that if a kiddo comes into a session and asks for that there, that might be the place where that might happen more. So, and I felt like this play kind of stuff, for me anyway, has fallen more on a mental health side, even for kids who are diagnosed with some type of, if it's autism, Down syndrome, a cognitive delay, a processing delay. It's more, I feel like this shift in, it's like a mental health piece of, I feel really passionate about honoring what the client really needs. And, not there's so much throughout their day where they have to do this, this has to come next. And it feels really against the grain for me to have sessions where it's like, you have to do this. If you're, the only time is if someone's not being safe, obviously. But, I feel like it's my job to be flexible and to figure out and to be the researcher in that moment of, how can I connect to you? Like, if you're coming into the session, it's my job to figure out how I want to connect to you, or not how I want to, how I can connect to you, how I can get there. Which path do we take today to get there? And if you're closing off this one and this one, then I'll try this one and this one. And maybe that path is silence for 10 minutes, and that's okay. And that, I think that just honors so much of the genuine, the authenticity of those clients, especially as little kids. I feel like I want to do that more. I feel like it's not there enough for little kids.
Well, and that encourages them to advocate for themselves, even if it's, I don't want to hear music today. And then showing them that when you advocate for yourself, if the time is appropriate and conducive, we can meet those requests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that advocacy piece is so important. And that reflection too, like, when a client says that, and I feel the need to say, like, oh, you really want some quiet time today. Like, your ears have taken in a lot. You're busy in your mind. Let's, there's mindfulness in that. There's helping the client recognize that understand their need, and not just, I need this, and then, oh, that's why I need it. That being that mirror, that reflector to say, like, I understand what you're saying. You need this because, and then that feels so therapeutic too, to just help put those things back out there for the client to hear, if they're in a place to hear them, and then to process them, especially if there's 10 minutes of silence. Yeah. It's a great time to process that.
For sure. So how can people out there who have not really tried play therapy, are doing music therapy, how can they start to incorporate that in their sessions and into their practice?
Well, I think a big important thing, just like we are constantly advocating for music therapy, you have to have a credential, you have to have education. It's not a one course thing to go be a music therapist. But as a expressive therapist, play is one of those modalities that we can, as long as we're practicing within our scope of practice, that we can take some techniques from, just like we do with speech, PT, OT. I think the best thing to do is go do training. Go find, there's different types of training you can do. There's so many different styles, approaches. There's directive, there's non-directive. I think too, if you can consult or find a play therapist, go talk to somebody. I feel like every person that is a play therapist that I've talked with just lights up when I'm like, I'm a music therapist, but I'm interested in supporting this play within my scope of practice, so that I'm not, shutting down other modes of creativity just because we're in music. We're in a creative session. Like, how can I continue to support that? And I think there's a great podcast, Lessons from the Playroom, that is Lisa Dion's podcast, and she is the founder of Synergetic Play Therapy, which is a particular approach, and it's really fantastic. But that podcast has been just all these just fantastic nuggets of information of learning about play. So I do have some stuff. This is a goal of mine on my blog, is to have more of this stuff. I have a couple things up of using like tracking, which is a basic play therapy technique, and reflection, which is a counseling, but reflection within tracking, which is a play therapy technique. So I think the biggest thing is like when as music therapists, we're always kind of sneaking in and pulling into other domains and modalities, is to, reach out to somebody, find out more if there's a play therapist, if there's continuing education, free stuff like podcasts, reading articles like this particular article. There's some great play therapy articles. I wish I could think of some. There's tons of play therapy books too that are helpful. There's this one, I can't remember the name of it, but if it comes to me, I'll mention that too. And I think the big thing too is respecting that, to be a play therapist, you also have to have 2 years of, doing, I think it's like 150 hours of contact time, or, doing continuing education. There's supervision piece to it. So it's just like music therapy, where you have to have a considerable amount of additional education and supervision to get registered as a play therapist. But there's a lot of ways where play and music are just completely overlapping, just like play and drama, and play and art, and play and speech, or music and speech, and music and PT, OT, all of that stuff. We really just kind of lay on top of all of those things and overlap in a way.
I'll link the resources you mentioned, but if you think of any others,
Awesome.
throw them out and
I will send you the book too, whatever the book is. I think it's like developing the play therapy relationship. It's actually like a workbook. It's fantastic. It's awesome.
I like that. I like interactive things. I feel like I learn more
Me
from
too.
them.
Me too. I'm always so hesitant to actually fill it out though, because I'm like, oh, but wait, I should write this down in a separate journal or something.
So in 5 years, it'll be completely different. My answer will be different. My approach will be different.
Exactly.
We're always evolving and changing. So that's actually a really good segue. Your platform went through a name change. You're building all these things now. Tell us all about that.
Yeah. So my website was called, it still is, you can still go to musictherapyumbrella.org, and it actually came from a place of, it's actually started from burnout. So I had about a year ago had a pretty significant phase of burnout that I went through. And I actually did Ami's, the course. It was amazing. It was life-changing. I have the journal that I kept from doing all of the modules throughout it. It was just so amazing, and helped me understand burnout, and helped me understand my own needs in work, in home life, in all these different places of what balance I need. And it was just a great self-reflection, like a year of self-reflection stuff. It was awesome. So I did that, and that really, really helped me understand what I was missing and kind of where my burnout was coming from. And so I ended up starting the blog and my website, and kind of like dabbled on and off in it, and didn't really get serious until maybe 6 months ago. I started getting more serious into it. And as I was doing this, I was like, I called it Music Therapy Umbrella because I identify as a music therapist first. I feel like that is my identity. And this might change we are ever evolving. And maybe in 5 years, I might identify as a counselor first and a music therapist second. But right now, I identify as a music therapist. And I kind of have a feeling that I always will. That will be first, because it's really what started my journey. But the change came, excuse me, because I do feel so passionate about the creative arts, and I am very passionate about music therapy, but I'm also really passionate about the integration of all therapies with music therapy, about, art and dance together, and just all these different modalities and how they can support clients, especially as I've just been working with clients who seem to need that more, who are, they seek that out. So I pulled off the Band-Aid. I was like, I'd been thinking about it for months of like, okay, I feel like just calling this space a music therapy umbrella isn't doing the justice. I feel like even to the music therapy field, because we do work with so many other professionals, with so many other modalities of creativity, with so many other ways of expressing. We do movement, we're incorporating dance, we're incorporating drama if we do song stories, and, we're targeting speech, targeting PT. And I feel like we do that a lot, but there's also therapists on the outside who are doing that too with music. And I feel like I just want to create this umbrella, this space where therapists can talk, we can hear their stories, ups and downs of therapy life in general and that stuff. But how are other therapists, how are other creative therapists using their modalities? How are they staying creative in a creative field? I'm really interested in the client space, creativity within the therapy relationship, but then also creativity outside of that. How is somebody not burning out when they're constantly being creative at work? Do they engage in a different modality outside of the one that they do at work? So I decided to change the name to Creative Therapy Umbrella. And my podcast also is now Creative Therapy Umbrella instead of Music Therapy Umbrella. And I hope that the broadening of that doesn't take away from music therapy, because that's where I feel like my biggest piece comes in with that, but that it opens so many more doors for other people who are listening, or other people who feel that they need more, more support or more inspiration, or just hearing those other stories. For me, as a podcast listener, it's what gets me going, and I get ideas from it. And it's just like, I think we said earlier, that validation can be so, so helpful to us too, just like it's helpful for our clients. So I hope that the broadening of the platform is going to better serve music therapists and also serve the creative and expressive therapy fields as well.
Yeah, I love that. So at the last conference I attended, some of the other attendees I was talking to, were saying things to the effect of, well, a lot of the sessions, it's information I already know. I'm not really sure. I'm getting more out of it after working in the field for so many years. And I think that the creative therapy umbrella and resources like that are going to be a wonderful way for people to expand their practice, right? Because you can incorporate all these different modalities that you can't know everything about all the things. So it's awesome that that's going to be available for people.
And you hit the nail on the head. That's it. I think that's where I felt too, where I felt stuck in part of my burnout, was like, I hate to say this because it sounds terrible, but I felt limited in my music therapy sessions. I felt limited to music. And I did a lot of the stuff of like, I need to be a better music therapist. I need to go do more CMTEs, which I did. And, I need to get supervision, and I did. And then I kind of realized like, oh, this isn't a music issue. This is a creative thing that I'm feeling I need more from. And then I was like, and I'm seeing this with my clients too. Like, they don't want music right now, or music is not the best thing that might be able to support them in this moment. What can I add to my toolbox to help support that maybe is a still creative modality or something else that can support them in that moment? So that's exactly what I felt at that time. And I'm hoping this can help other people through that too.
Awesome. I'm really excited to dive into that and to get the inspiration from your
Yes.
episodes. I'm stoked.
I'm super excited too. And it's definitely, I think it's going to be at about like a 50-50 split. Still lots of music therapists, but I know the music therapists that I have interviewed and I have had lined up are also dabble in a lot of other creative modalities too. And there's that piece that I think will be added in there too for even interviewing music therapists, but then art therapy, drama therapy. I have a good friend who's dual certified as a counselor and a music therapist. And so if anyone is interested in, being on the podcast, you can email me too. My email is creativetherapyumbrella@gmail.com. But I'm interested too in anyone who knows who works with other expressive therapists, creative arts therapists, if speech, OT, PT, mental health counselors who use creative modalities, same thing. I just want to really make this umbrella broad to really support people as much as possible, as much as I can do that.
Awesome. Hopefully some of the listeners I'll put the email in the show notes. So hopefully some of them will be reaching out to you.
I look forward to it so much. I love feedback.
Kate is a great host also. So if you're worried, she makes it very, very easy conversation, good topics.
I just started this and I'm really bummed because when I interviewed you, Tricia, we didn't do it, but I'm doing a Would You Rather segment at the beginning and I've gotten a lot of people to send them to me from like Facebook and a bunch of different places. And it's been a really fun way to start the podcast and just hear the ridiculousness of some of the Would You Rathers. So that's been a really fun part to add that little game and play element into that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yes.
You made a good segue again for me. Are you ready to move into rapid fire, or would you like to add anything? Alrighty. Good. So you know the questions. At this point, it's not like exciting for the guests because most of them know the questions.
I've binge listened enough. So yes, I think I know most of them.
Do you remember the first one?
Is it coffee or tea?
Yes.
Yep. I am currently drinking a very large cup of coffee.
Well, it's early where you are, right?
It is. Yeah. It's just about 9. So, but I absolutely love coffee. Although I'm pretty energetic without it, especially in the morning. So I don't need it, but I really, really like it. So I've dabbled with the idea of moving to decaf, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. So, but yeah, I do love coffee. Although I have to stop drinking it. I cannot have it after 12 or else like I'm like just a busybody for the rest of the day and then I can't sleep. And so I have to be really particular about when I drink it.
Self-awareness.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Early bird or night owl?
Definitely early bird. I wish I was a night owl, but I'm in bed at like 9:30. I think I started getting up even earlier once I got a dog who you probably just heard barking. She's a puppy. So it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. She's up and ready to go and barking at a squirrel or whatever. And so that's gotten me up even earlier, but I really like getting up in the morning. I just have natural energy and want to like get up and start working on stuff. And half the time I don't even drink coffee until like 8 o'clock and I've already had energy and then I just add more to it, which sometimes isn't always the best.
I think you're the first person I've ever heard say they wish they were a night owl.
The grass is always greener.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, it comes, I think, when it's like, I need to like watch a movie or something, and I'm like, oh, I better prep for this. If we're gonna watch it like 10:30, I better, maybe I should drink a coffee at 1 p.m. to keep myself up. So, but yeah, I do really like getting up early.
Good for you. Mm-hmm. Something you would tell your younger self?
This one I've been thinking about too. This is such a good question. I think I would tell myself to not only listen to your gut, but really listen to it. Like stop and like spend time with it. There's this great podcast by Tara Brach. She's a psychologist and really into like Buddhist psychology and mindfulness practice, and I absolutely love listening to her stuff. But something I think about that she kind of said that makes me think this stuff more often is sitting with like the feelings that you have, like they are a person on a park bench next to you, and just like you're sitting and chatting with them, and maybe that's anger, maybe that's anxiety, and maybe it's fear, but you're really just like humanizing that feeling. And I feel that way like almost with my gut as its own thing of there's times where I've listened to it and then I just kind of quickly move on and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you said that, whatever. Oh, well, let's go this way. But I feel like the more that I sit and spend time with it and like just give it that space, sometimes 10 minutes of silence, if that's what it needs, like that has just so helped me grow as a person, as a professional. And it helps me to, I think, and this is probably also goes along with another thing I would say is you just don't care what other people think as much. And I think for me, spending time with my gut feelings has helped not think about so much what other people are thinking. And even like with the change from music therapy umbrella to creative therapy umbrella, like I was like, okay, I need to sit and spend time with this. Like, what is my mission? What is my gut telling me? Why is it telling me that? Let me spend time, let me journal about it later. And I was like, okay, no, this is just this, my gut's telling me to do this, so I'm going to do it. And now that I've done it, I feel a million times better. So yeah, I wish I would have started that practice a long time ago. I think it would have been really, but I'm thankful that I'm doing it now too. So it's a good journey.
Yeah, a good way to say that. So it's all in the timing. It's all gonna happen the way it's supposed to.
Exactly.
This one you can add on to your music therapy elevator speech. But if you
Ooh.
like tie in anything else that you do, however you
I
want
did
to
not
present
prep for
that.
this one. Oh my goodness. Okay. I should know it right off the bat. I definitely go with the classic that music therapy is a health profession that is that requires board certification and extensive education, and it is supporting non-musical goals, and that can support a variety of things for a variety of people, including, you know, from newborns all the way up until up to early into geriatric care, and can support different domains such as social skills, academic skills, mental health needs. So I usually go with that general piece, but I found myself leaning more towards, and this is probably because this is what the population that I think I'm just kind of getting into and having more exposure to, is talking about how music therapy can support an individual's innate creativity as a person and as a unique individual. And music can be a container to help grow those connections and help foster connections with other people through that creativity as well. And through that connection and that creativity can improve mental health, can improve social skills, communication skills, can improve lots of soft skills and hard skills through that as well. And also honor the person's innate authenticity and their own autonomy.
Awesome. Your favorite self-care practice?
Oh, this is super cliche. I love taking baths. It's funny because like reading a lot more about people and their different self-care practices, and a lot of people are like, oh, I always thought it was about taking baths. And I'm like, it is for me. It's just my quiet time where Like, I usually end up like reading a good book. I can just relax. I'm not thinking about anything else, but just like literally like soaking and just like, it's just I feel like it just melts away a lot of stuff of my day. And so that is a regular practice for me, but also, especially now having a dog, who is very energetic, which is great. I love it. But she demands it more of me too. But it's also just been this really great cyclical thing where, she needs to be walked. She has to run at some point in her day, or like, she is like a sniff monster. Like she will sniff if I let her for hours, like just everything. And I think she has part terrier or something in her. But so I have been, when I'm taking her, I take her for a walk every day and a couple walks. But in the morning, I've started this thing where I'm taking her for a walk and I don't have my phone. Well, I have it off, but I have it tucked away in a bag and it's just me and my dog. And I just kind of let her do her thing. And it's been really fun because it's like, I just the other day, I was like, you're exploring the whole world through your nose right now. Like, this is so cool. And like just watching her do that. And I feel really in the moment and present with her and appreciative and not like, oh my gosh, stop sniffing that one leaf. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like it just brings me to the present moment and to things that are so simple. And I don't think I would be able to do that without her. She has definitely grown my patience in a very good way.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
My dog also is she likes to sniff things.
Yes, yeah, and I've gotten like so appreciative of it lately. I'm like, that's how you explore and take in. I joke all the time with my husband. I'm like, oh, she's checking her emails.
That's a good one.
Well, they have to, they get so much information from other dogs, from other animals. And I'm like, I always want to check my emails and get them out of the way. Like, how could I stop her from doing that? So I always try to reframe it into that perspective.
Good one. Good one.
Yeah.
Something that's currently adding value to your life.
Oh, there's so much. I think I have a couple. I'm doing supervision. I have to do a lot of supervision right now to get my LPC. So I do supervision weekly for an hour. Yes, an hour each week. And I have 2 different supervisors who I'm doing that with. And it is phenomenal. I love supervision so much. It's worth every penny. It is like, I can't even put a number to how the value, or I can't even explain the value that it's given me as a professional and as a person. So that's adding a lot of value to my life, I think, for sure. And then I would say outside of work too, something that's adding value to my life in general is I think I would have to say my pets and my family. They're just they always continue to add value. Like I'm always appreciative of the new value that continues to like come in, and the new experiences that just add value that like we all share together. And my family, meaning my husband, my dog, and my cat. And like with just like quirky little things that happen. The other day, my dog really does like to chase my cat, and she's getting better, but they were sitting, like 6 inches apart from each other. And it was like, oh, this is so amazing. Like, we've grown to this place together. It feels so good to have those moments. They just make me so happy.
Awesome. That's a great way to express gratitude for the little things. I love that.
Yes, for sure.
Your favorite intervention or song to use in a session?
Ooh, this is such a good one. I don't know if I have like an all-time favorite.
It can just be your current favorite. I know you ask this on your podcast, so you have tons of intervention ideas.
They're all like jumbled in my head now. I have this one that I've been using right now that I really like. And it's actually, I just sent it out in my newsletter. It's called Little Leaves, and I saw it. It was a poem. I can't remember who wrote it, but it was a poem on like a teacher's bulletin board, and I was like, that is a perfect song for a song. So I just wrote a cute little melody to it, and I use like cutout leaves, and I love felt boards. Felt boards are like one of my favorite things to use in sessions. And so we have these cutout leaves, and what we do is we kind of like throw the leaves around, and then you have to gather them back up with the song, and then you put them in the parachute. And then once you get the parachute going, you do this big like whoosh part, and then the leaves go everywhere. So it's really fun because you're making a total mess, but it's like an appropriate way to like make a mess. And it's just so fun to see clients' faces like light up when the leaves go everywhere. It's just so, so much fun. And then we go back and pick them up. So we're working on some, of that fine motor stuff. And there's the one part where it's like whoosh, where I hear a lot of kiddos like start with the W or do the ooh sound, which is really cool. But I love it because it leaves a lot of space for exploration and honoring nature too, which is really fun too, to incorporate that and talk about leaves or look out the window when leaves start to change. And that one's been my favorite right now. Although the leaves haven't started changing here yet. They're not totally there. So I'm ahead of the game a little bit. I don't know how they are by you.
Like one or two trees, but
Okay.
it's getting cool here for sure.
Nice. Yes. Yeah.
Fall is coming. I like that. I'm going to use that for sure. I've done a similar thing. I think last year I did spring. It was like the winter to spring transition, and I had snowflakes and flowers in the parachute. And I was like, we want to get the snowflakes out and we want to keep the flowers in. So we're going out with winter and we want spring. And similar idea. They had a lot of fun with that.
I love that. I'm totally going to steal that.
Please do.
There's this other song during that time of year. It's called When the Gnomes Go Underground. I don't know how I found this song, but it's on somebody's SoundCloud. It might be like a Montessori song. Maybe it's something like that. But When the Gnomes Go Underground, super cute about gnomes in spring and hiding under roofs of snow. But it talks about flowers too. So that is, I usually use the parachute with it, but now I'm going to add that to it because that's such a fun element.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. I love this. Brainstorming ideas.
Me too.
All right. So where can people find you, connect with you? I'll put your email so people can be on your podcast, and I'll put a link to your website.
Yes, that is awesome. So my website is creativetherapyumbrella.com. And my podcast will be out by this time, so you'll be able to find me on iTunes. And then also on my website there, you can listen to the podcast there as well. My email, creativetherapyumbrella@gmail.com. Instagram too, it's Creative Therapy Umbrella. So I love, 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 love hearing from people. Connecting with people is just one of my all-time favorite things. So I tell people all the time, just feel free to reach out with any questions, anything you're interested in. If you have a good would you rather, send it my way. If a guest or you want to be on the podcast too, or if you want more content on the website, reach out and let me know. I absolutely love feedback and I love connecting with people. So
awesome. Yeah. We'll link all that below. Thank you so much for talking with me today. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, this was so much fun. And I'm really excited to release these at the same time. It's going to be so great.
I really hope that episode got you as excited as it got me, because I always say, I think on this podcast, that our scope of practice is so wide, it's so broad, it's so hard to know everything. But at the same time, knowing that these other therapies are out there and that we can draw from them and learn from them and incorporate them is more exciting and empowering to me than it is overwhelming. I'm not sure if that makes sense, if anyone understands what I'm saying, but it's exciting to know that there's always ways to expand our practice and to enhance the service we're providing to our clients. So I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Now that you finished it, go and check out Kate's podcast. the creative therapy umbrella. She has some great content lined up and more in-depth conversations about incorporating these other modalities into your practice. As always, please leave us a review on iTunes if you feel so inclined. Also, if you're looking for another way to support the podcast, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/musictherapychronicles. I really appreciate any support people feel like they can give over there. And I am offering the opportunity to ask the questions to the guests on Patreon. So I will, when I schedule interviews, leave a list or post about who's going to be on the podcast. And if you have a special question you want to ask them or a topic that you know they have expertise on and you want them to cover, that'd be really helpful for me to know what the listeners are looking for and to be able to provide that specifically. So please check out our Patreon. Check us out on social media, join our Facebook group. You can get in contact with us there. And if you or someone you know wants to be on the podcast, please send an email to feedback@musictherapychronicles.com. Alrighty, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next episode.